All right, let's talk about a word you've probably heard 1,000 times by now. Blockchain. It's this technology that people say is going to change everything, from how we buy our coffee to how we protect our identity online. But what is it really? We're going to break it all down, piece by piece.
I mean, think about it. When you send money online, or a photo, or even just a document, you're really just sending a copy. So how do we prove who owns the original digital thing? And how do we make sure that transaction is secure and nobody can mess with it later? Well, that's the exact problem blockchain was designed to solve.
And this is the core idea to wrap your head around. Blockchain isn't just about cryptocurrency. At its heart, it's a brand new way to create trust directly between people, online, without needing a big bank or a giant tech company in the middle.
For years, our digital payment systems have been trying to play catch-up. You know how it is. They can be slow, they're vulnerable to fraud, and they're usually controlled by just one company. Blockchain flips that script completely. It offers a totally different model that's built to reduce risk and fraud from the ground up.
Now this right here, this is blockchain's superpower. It creates a digital record, a history of who owned what and when, that is completely open for anyone to see. And the crucial part is, it's next to impossible to change. It pulls this off with a really clever mix of a shared public ledger and some unbreakable digital seals. Let's break down how that works.
So how does this thing actually work? Well, it all comes down to three core pieces that hold the entire system together. Think of them as the three main ingredients in the blockchain recipe. First up, we've got the block. The easiest way to picture a block is as a single page in a massive, shared digital notebook. Each page, or block, records a whole bunch of recent transactions. Once that page is full, it gets added to the notebook, which, you guessed it, is the chain.
Now, every single block contains three key things that basically create a tamper-proof seal. First, you've got the transaction data itself. Second, a random number called a nodes. And third, something called a hash, which is like a unique digital fingerprint for that specific block. If you change even one tiny comma in the transaction data, that digital fingerprint changes completely, which instantly tells everyone that something's been messed with.
Okay, so if the blocks are the pages, who's holding the notebook? That brings us to our next component, the node. A node is basically any computer on the network that keeps a full copy of the entire blockchain. And we're not talking about a handful of computers, we're talking thousands, sometimes millions of devices, all holding the exact same ledger.
And this is what makes it so powerful. Because everyone has a copy, no single person or company or even government can control it. They can't shut it down or secretly change the records. To make a change, you'd have to convince more than half of the entire network to agree with you, which is, practically impossible.
So who actually adds the new blocks to the chain? That's the job of the miners. And no, these aren't people with pickaxes. They're actually super powerful computers that are all competing to solve a really, really complex math problem. The first one to solve it gets the right to add the next block to the chain, and for their hard work, they get a reward, usually in cryptocurrency.
I know this all sounds a little complex, but it leads to a simple and incredibly powerful security feature. Let's see how all these pieces lock together to make the chain so tough to break.
Okay, imagine a hacker wants to alter a past transaction. They go back into the chain and try to change the data in just one single block. Seems easy enough, right?
Well, here's the catch. Because each block's digital fingerprint is linked to the one before it, changing one block essentially breaks the entire chain that comes after it. So to make that fake change stick, the hacker would have to resolve the complex math problem for that block and for every single block that was added after it. It's a race against the entire network, and it's a race they are almost guaranteed to lose.
So we have these tamper-proof blocks, a decentralized network of nodes and miners all competing to add to the chain. Let's put all those pieces together and follow one transaction from start to finish.
This whole cycle is what makes the system so trustworthy. A request gets broadcast to the whole network, the nodes all check it out and validate it. Only after it's been confirmed does a miner bundle it into a new block and add it to the chain. And at that point, the transaction becomes a permanent, public, and verifiable part of history.
Look, this is no longer some niche, theoretical idea just for crypto enthusiasts. Blockchain technology is starting to go mainstream, and some of the biggest corporations in the world are seeing how it could completely transform the way they do business. I mean, just look at who's getting in on the action. Some of the most valuable companies on the planet, we're talking Amazon, Google's parent company Alphabet, and Microsoft, are already exploring and even adopting blockchain-based systems. When these giants start to move, it signals a huge shift for the entire industry.
This quote right here really captures just how big of a deal this could be. The idea is that the massive value that's currently held inside these huge centralized companies could, over time, actually shift to decentralized networks that are represented by digital tokens. It's a total reimagining of our whole economic structure.
And this adoption is happening pretty fast. A few years ago, the tech got a lot faster and more secure. Right now, we're in the phase where big tech is integrating it. And if you look ahead, there are predictions, even from governments, that by 2030, most major companies will be using some form of virtual currency.
And that leaves us with a huge, critical question. Blockchain was born out of this desire for decentralization, for giving control back to the users. But as the biggest, most centralized companies in the world start to adopt it, what does that mean for us? Will it actually solve our data and privacy problems? Or will it just create new, even more complex systems of control? That's the puzzle we'll all have to solve as this technology continues to grow up.